I'm Yuri.
I'm Jacob.
And we're going from point A to point B. (2020) Toyota Corolla XSE.
2020 Honda Civic Touring.
We are comparing normal, reliable four-door sedans in automatic transmissions.
These have been the best-selling cars in this segment for I don't even know how many years.
And they're pretty much our go-to recommendation when someone says, what should I buy? I don't really care about driving. Buy a 10-year-old Civic or Corolla.
Or maybe a new one if you got a little extra cash.
And not that it matters, horsepower and torque.
The Civic has 174 horsepower and 162 pound-feet of torque from a 1.5-liter turbo four-cylinder. And the Corolla has 169 horsepower and 151 pound-feet of torque from a 2-liter naturally aspirated four-cylinder.
And by the way, they're both CVTs.
Our favorite.
But what we really need to find out is which one is faster. Ready?
Oh, the Civic's got a little bit more power, not much.
But I feel like the Corolla kicks into fake gear a little quicker.
Yeah, so these do have fake gears. These are CVTs, so they simulate fake gears, and we both have paddles to simulate those fake gears.
But if you rip it off the line, the Civic wins every time by a whole bunch.
Yeah, and with only 5 more horsepower, that's actually really impressive. So the turbo does make a difference.
But does it make enough of a difference to buy this car for the speed?
It really depends on how much you're into handling and horsepower and all that kind of stuff, but realistically, not really.
These are point A to point B cars, and all week, this has gotten me from point A to point B with absolutely no issues.
Yeah, and the Civic's done the same, but I feel like I've had a little bit more fun in it.
And I've had zero fun in either of these cars, but the experiences have been either perfectly neutral or slightly above neutral. Nothing negative at all.
But I feel like I do need to say that the Civic is the one that's slightly more fun. I could just wait for that turbo to spool up, and it handles just a little bit better. So if you do care about that stuff, I would highly recommend the Civic over that Corolla.
Yeah, the Civic's handling is definitely better than the Corolla.
And if you guys like comparisons like this, we do a lot of these, so make sure you check them out and subscribe and hit the bell for more of those. So let's get to the important stuff that people actually care about in this segment. Number 1, they both take regular gas.
And like always, we don't talk about gas mileage, but on paper, they're pretty much exactly the same. People probably care about being able to fit in the front seat and the back seat.
Yeah, so I find myself more comfortable in the Civic seats, just sitting in them while driving, and I have more leg room behind myself in the Civic.
I feel like they're pretty much exactly the same comfort-wise if you don't really think about it, and the Corolla has lumbar support.
Yeah, and we both have heated seats in the front. We actually have heated seats in the back, which is awesome, and I don't have a heated steering wheel in the Civic.
So I actually do have a heated steering wheel in the Corolla, and I've got a heated area for my windshield wipers in the Corolla as well.
And that's pretty impressive because there is a very slight price difference between these, but we'll get to that at the end.
The next thing someone probably cares about if they have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The Corolla and the Civic both have Apple CarPlay.
However, the Corolla does not have Android Auto, which is ridiculous. Come on, Toyota. Even the Supra's gonna get it soon.
Okay, and they both have wireless chargers, which is cool, but to use Apple CarPlay, you gotta plug into both anyway, so not really gonna use them.
And since you're gonna be driving this every day, you're listening to music, listening to your satellite radio, I think the Civic has the better sound system.
Oh, it definitely does. The Corolla feels like everything's coming out of the front. The Civic feels like it's surround sound.
And do both of these rewind satellite radio?
They both do, but it's a little better to use on the Corolla, I think.
And you know what else is better to use on the Corolla? The tuning knob.
Yeah, because you don't have one on the Civic. It's got that old Civic infotainment. They used to have the touch volume thing that they kind of fixed with some hard buttons, but there's a lot better hard buttons on this Corolla.
Yeah, so when we've previously reviewed the Civic, they did add some hard buttons and a volume knob a couple years back.
But it's still not the best compared to like a Kia or a Hyundai. If I click the phone button, it's gonna take me to my phone screen on Apple CarPlay. There's no way to go to your projection or go right to satellite radio. There's a few too many clicks for everything as far as I'm concerned. And you know what I really care about in a car like this? The trunk space.
Yeah, so the Civic actually does have a little bit more trunk space, and I think it's better configured.
But I had an issue when I went to play hockey in the Corolla. I couldn't drop the back seats down from the trunk to fit my hockey stick in. So I had to go all the way to the front door, unlock it with my hand, then go to the back door, open that up, get in, and drop the seat so I can put my hockey stick in. The Civic, we've got little knobs from the trunk to drop the back seats, which is like a huge deal if you actually need to go snowboarding, play hockey, throw your golf bags in there or something.
And before we talk about the backup camera, let me just slingshot myself forward with the CVT and turbo. I find it hilarious. Like, I actually enjoy the power delivery in this because it's kind of fun.
I can see why you think it's interesting, but to be brutally honest, they're just like people movers, like nothing cool about it.
So now let's talk about these backup cameras. The one in the Civic is definitely worse quality than the one in the Corolla.
Yeah, you get a better field of view. You can actually see what's around you, and I think the Civic is pretty much just good for not hitting that pole behind you. But what sucks is neither of these have parking sensors.
And so let's talk about some safety stuff. I don't have any blind spot monitoring in the Civic, but I do have a camera on the right side.
Yes, and that turns on when you turn on the signal, but you can turn that off in the settings, and you had an issue with that.
Yeah, so every time I use my Android Auto, it would just take an extra second to kick back into Android Auto. So I was making a right-hand turn, used my signal, and then I lost my thing, and I was like, oh no, do I turn here or turn after this? So it's a little weird. And in the Corolla, you got regular blind spot monitoring with little sensors in the mirrors.
Yeah, it works great. And lucky for us, both of these cars have pretty decent lane keep, but they're not nearly as good as anything from like Hyundai or Kia.
Yeah, the best part of them is that they do actually lane center. They still move around a bit, but they definitely are lane centering, and they also have adaptive cruise.
So if you're stuck in rush hour traffic and you're not going too quick on the highway, it's pretty good for taking over.
Hey Yuri, I got a good one for you.
Okay, hit me with it.
I looked at the Toyota website while I was researching that vehicle, and they said something about the drivetrain. I'm gonna have to read it to you word for word from the website.
Okay, I want to hear this marketing jargon.
Tell me if you feel this while you're driving that car. A true performance powertrain. It even features laser-clad valves, a technology derived from F1 racing.
Well, I think marketing needs to tone it down a notch and get back to reality on that.
Yeah, Toyota and F1, yeah, that's a thing.
That's like me saying everything is like my Prowler and you saying everything is like your Raptor.
That's pretty much what they did there.
So let's switch cars, talk about a few more comparisons on the interior, get into the looks of both of them, and then let's get to the price.
When you said switch cars, did you mean like we're gonna swap out for like a Prowler and a Raptor?
Oh, you said it. So the real reason I wanted to switch is because I have no faith in Toyotas passing the visor test. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Yes!
Got the stupid extension. I should have stayed in that car.
Okay, cup holder test. You've got the cups in your car.
And this definitely passes in the Corolla.
And it definitely passes in the Civic. It's that same awesome cup holder that we love from every Civic we've ever driven.
And I would love to talk about the center console section because it is full of gloss black in the Corolla and I find it disgusting.
Yeah, it doesn't really bother me. It is a nice clean look and it doesn't really come up high, so it feels like you have more of a green space, right?
I believe it's greenhouse.
Greenhouse. It feels less cramped in the Corolla.
It definitely feels less cramped in the Corolla just because of the way that the center console is configured. You kind of have more room for your knees.
And in both of these cars, we've got a nice armrest where we can put our hand on the steering wheel while having our elbow on the armrest, which I think is very great.
And we both have normal shifters, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's actually kind of crazy. We both have sport modes, which don't do too much.
Yeah, so the Corolla actually has a button that says sport. The Civic only has sport for the transmission.
Yeah, the sport mode of the Civic doesn't change the dampers or the steering or anything.
The sport mode in the Corolla does affect the steering, which is kind of cool. However, it's so light in the Corolla that old people would probably appreciate that.
Yeah, it's definitely old people spec steering, which is nice.
But it is super light in comparison to the Civic. I personally prefer the steering in the Civic.
Yeah, it's definitely much better.
So let's talk about these fake gears now. If I shift them manually with these paddles in the Corolla, they shift so fast.
I don't like the shape of the paddles in the Corolla. I much prefer the shape of the paddles in the Civic.
Did you notice that the paddles in the Corolla are like double paddles? So the part that you actually press isn't the plus minus?
It's just like weird decorative paddles. I wish they went the Ultima route and just got rid of all of them.
But you do only get the paddles on the upper trims like the SE, the XSE, because this is the sportiest version of this Corolla.
So the Civic has an eco mode, and when you're driving economically, the lights go green, and when you floor it, it goes white. The Corolla has a little leaf that shows up every time you're off the throttle or back on the throttle, it'll disappear, but you can turn that off, and I think we found that annoying in a previous Toyota video.
Yeah, Lexus is known for doing that, so again, same company, so you can turn that off here.
And the last two things I want to talk about in the interior, none of these have memory seats, which kind of sucks if you share it with a spouse.
Yeah, and these are the top trims of both of these, so it would be nice if they added that.
And only the Civic has the garage door opener buttons on the mirror, which is awesome if you don't want to have a garage door opener all the time.
That is your latest random obsession.
If you had to go snowboarding and you had to open your garage door, opening the trunk and going around every time and having to get your clicker every time, you save a lot of extra steps in the Civic.
And I have two last things that I'd like to talk about with the interior, so let's start with the gauges. I think the gauges in the Civic just look so much better. The quality of them, like everything about them, I prefer.
Yeah, it's a cleaner look, and I think it's coming from this being the same gauges in the Type R. The Corolla matches everything else in the Toyota lineup. I don't really like it, but I also don't really mind it.
And we did talk about the seats earlier, but I just want to mention that in the Corolla you get Softex, which is like a simulated leather, and in the Civic you actually get real leather.
But hands down, the Corolla has the much cooler looking seats.
Yeah, they actually look so cool.
Yo, is that a Raptor?
And before we get to the looks, the last thing I would like to talk about is the overall ride quality and comfort. These are both so comfortable. I have no issues with either. But the only thing is, if you just want the better handling one, get the Civic, but they're both equally comfortable.
And then as for overall interior, which one do you prefer the look of more?
I prefer the look of the Civic. I prefer everything about the interior of the Civic, to be honest.
I think I prefer the functionality of the Civic, but I like the look of the Corolla more. And definitely the infotainment screen on the Corolla wins for me.
Yeah, the actual screen itself is definitely better quality.
And one more thing to tie in the interior to the exterior, because we're going to talk about that next. Both of these have proximity touch door handles, so you don't need to get the key out of your pocket ever.
Yeah, and the Civic actually has remote start, which is awesome.
But the Civic, you have to push a hard button to lock the door, where the Corolla, you can just tap it with your hand.
So moving on from the door handles, let's talk about the overall looks of both of these.
Which one looks better on the count of 3? 1, 2, 3. Corolla. Good job, Toyota.
Dude, can you imagine that this is the beige Corolla of the 90s and 2000s that's been rolling around recently? This is what's gonna be rolling around in like 10 years.
And the thing is, nobody looks at that. Like, nobody looks at that Corolla on the road at all.
It's such a good looking car, especially next to the Civic. Like, this looks amazing.
So front end wise, if we start with the headlights, obviously the Corolla wins that.
Yeah, did you know that they're actually called Triple J headlights?
I'll take it. And then as for grills on the front end, you got a huge grill on the Corolla, which is way more modern.
Yeah, the front end of the Corolla is just so much more aggressive. There's so many grills up there, especially because this is the XSE, so it is the sporty one.
Type R versus XSE hatchback, Type R wins.
Well, yeah, I mean, Type R is wild.
And then how about side view and body lines? Do you have a preference?
I think the Civic has harder body lines, but I prefer the overall look of the Corolla.
Side view, I do prefer the look of the Civic a little more. How about wheels?
I really like the wheels on the Corolla. They look so cool. The Civic ones are all right, but the Corolla ones are legitimately nice wheels.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this one to Corolla as well. And what is the Continental recommended tire for these two, point A to point B, lovely vehicles?
The Continental Pure Contact LS and the Viking Contact 7.
So now how about the back end?
The Corolla back end is just so much more aggressive. I really like that.
I like how they made the whole bottom of the back bumper just fake grill pattern, like no hiding it at all.
Yeah, it's literally like the entire bumper, and you have a diffuser and stuff in there, and then you have a pretty decent looking exhaust, only on the Corolla.
And on the Civic, we got a tiny bit of fake grille on the sides, which everyone complained about, but I don't think they're gonna complain anymore after seeing that Corolla. But we've got dual exhaust, which is pretty hidden on the Civic.
Yeah, and if that hidden dual exhaust bothers you, you can get the Sport, which has a cooler looking exhaust.
And then we've both got little spoilers. The Civic one is like a little too tiny. I think the Corolla wins this one.
Yeah, the spoilers are so minimal that I can't even decide a winner on spoilers, I'm sorry.
And then taillight wise, we got the good old lobster claws on the Civic, which I'm kind of over. And the Corolla's got some like chill little lines. Nothing spectacular on either end. So with everything out of the way, I think it's time to get to the price and decide which one we would take or recommend to you guys.
So let's start with the cheaper one. It's the Corolla, $28,490.
Canadian.
And the Civic is only $300 more at $28,790.
So the price is pretty much exactly the same.
Yeah, if $300 is gonna break the bank for you, just find another job.
So which one would you take and why?
There's a lot more things that I prefer about the Civic, starting with the drivetrain. I like the interior, I like the handling. I don't like the looks as much, but that's enough for me to decide Civic, and especially because it has Android Auto as well.
For me, I think it comes down to a few little gimmicks. Being able to drop the back seats from the trunk is huge. Having the garage door opener attached here is huge. Both lane keeps are pretty similar, so I'm not gonna really argue on that. And both rewind satellite radio stations and have Apple CarPlay, so I'm good on that end.
So I'm a little confused. What's your decision?
I would have to go Civic because those are the things that matter more to me.
But it's not like the Corolla is a bad car by any stretch. There's just like little things that add up for both of us for the Civic.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, a lot of these things don't matter. People don't need these garage door opener buttons. They don't need the rear seats to go down from the back, in which case, pretty much whatever one you could get a better deal on or whatever you're more used to is fine. Because like the tuning knob might be a huge deal for someone else in the Corolla, which would suck in the Civic. And because I already have a car that I think looks really cool, looks aren't gonna play a factor on which car I would choose. However, if this is somebody's only car, maybe their first car that they're buying brand new, they might like the Corolla a lot more because of the looks.
So let us know in the comments which one you think is better, which one you guys have bought, which one you would recommend.
So if you want to see more comparison videos, check out this playlist right here. And if you want to see more sedan videos, check out this playlist right here.